All right, everybody, here I am with Demi Forsyth. Did I get that right?
Yep.
Yeah, buddy, all the way from Fife, Scotland. Demi, thanks so much for doing this, dude. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Listen, because you've been on my mind. We met last year.
Yes.
Yeah, we met last year when I was able to go and do some training. And then we became Facebook pals. And I just
Yep.
see all your awesome posts. And I'm like, this lady is kicking it. And we got to talk to her and find out what's going on. So, again, thanks so much, dude.
Thank you.
Okay, cool. So, first of all, if we can reminisce a little bit about last year, how was it? Not just me, but the meeting, seeing the whole larger chunk of the community at whole.
Yeah, that was quite special actually, because most of my life I've not known anyone else associated with FASD or anyone else with FASD. It was nice speaking to some of the caregivers and that. It was really nice. And just seeing that
Gee,
there's such a community. Such a
geez.
community.
Demi, how old are you? Oh, you're not supposed to ask a lady, but this is for science.
I have to keep thinking about this. I'm 26.
Okay. Wow. And never really knew. Okay, this is where we got to back up then. So, from my understanding, you were diagnosed at age 3 with FASD. Now,
Yeah,
nobody
when
and
I was
their brother
adopted.
remembers that because that's pretty young. But what can you tell me from either what your family told you about the early years?
Pretty much. Well, my adoptive mum, I'll call her Diane, that was her name.
Yeah.
She's the only mum I knew basically. So I grew up with her my whole life. And as far as I was aware, I always had FAS is what it was known as at the time, fetal
Hmm.
alcohol syndrome. So I've always known that I've had something different about me, but I've
Yeah.
never gone into any research or anything until probably about 3 years ago when I met Judith, and went to the Hub Scotland guys and gave them a ring, and so it's
Wow.
still
Okay.
for me it's
Okay.
fairly recent, finding all this stuff out.
Okay. So what did Diane tell you when you were younger? Because were you like, why? Because I find some individuals are beautifully, blissfully ignorant. They don't know. They're
Mm,
having a good time. Some, get a sense of, hey, wait a minute, something's different
yeah,
here. Which camp were you in?
definitely that I knew I was different,
Yeah.
because having FAS with the facial features, and you always knew I looked different from my peers. I was shorter, like a lot
Hmm.
shorter. So there was the physical aspect of it, and then even like 5, 6 year old, I was struggling with my emotions. Like there was tantrums, there was a lot of meltdowns, mainly towards my mum.
Hmm.
And I didn't know how to deal with it really. So
Wow. Yeah,
that
that's
I knew there was something different as well.
but again, so going through school, like, did people mention this difference? Did you just go through school? Like, what was that like?
I was offered a little bit of support in like my primary school. I was kind of like set aside from the other classmates. I had a teacher working with me with a lot of stuff. Like math was a big issue for me, really struggled with numbers.
Hmm.
And being quite disruptive in class as well, like trying to focus was
Yeah,
difficult,
yeah. Yeah, because
so
I knew immediately if I was ever in a training, I could not sit beside you because we would be, hey, we would get separated, that's for sure.
yeah.
What were the challenges you faced in school that you can recall?
For primary, and that was many years ago now,
Hmm.
it was kind of getting picked on, getting bullied. Kind of just if you kind of watch the other peers around you and you just see they've got their head down and they're working away, and I'm like thinking to myself, why am I struggling with this when everyone else is doing fine and I'm just drawing a blank, you
Oh
know,
yeah.
you know. So there was that, and then high school was kind of the same, but being a teenager, it was kind of the social aspect of it as well, was the difficult
Yeah.
bit.
So did you struggle with that early? Like, because here's why, as talking to you, I wouldn't have any clue. You are fun to talk to. You are good to listen to, but I'm sure it wasn't always like that.
Oh, definitely not. No, no, I was quite a shy person growing up, and it wasn't only, it was like must have been the last couple of years of high school. I can actually recall the event as well. I did a
Ooh.
talent show. I did a talent show, and all my friends were like, "You've got to do this. You've got to do this." And I was like, "Nope, not doing it." And then I did it last minute. I put my name down. And I don't want to, blow my own trumpet here, but I did win it. I did
Yeah.
win it, and it
Let's
was
blow
weird.
the
It was like,
trumpet. Did you play the trumpet?
no, I didn't.
What do you do? What I know you like music. We'll get into it. What's your
Uh,
instrument of choice?
guitar, guitar.
Because look at your. Did you wear this shirt because you knew you were talking to me today?
I know a Canadian got to,
Ah,
haven't
did
I?
you do that? Because that's smart too. I was like,
Um,
oh, brownie points. So you wail on the guitar. That's your deal.
yeah, yeah.
But that's a significant skill. How old were you when you learned that?
I was about 6. It was my brother that taught me. All my siblings are adopted as well. Basically, my mum, Diane, she adopted all my siblings.
Yeah, bless
So my
her.
brother, it was him that got me into the music.
Did you find it soothing? Did you just, or was it wanting to be like Big Brother and then saying, hey, you know what? This actually doesn't, I have a propensity. I have a thing for this.
Yeah, he was quite easygoing. He was like, look, I'll introduce her to it, and if she likes it, then she likes it. And it just, I think it's a bit of a natural talent, really. I was obsessed with the Beatles when I was younger, like
Hey,
absolutely mad Beatles fan.
dude, they still slap today, you know? They're still, you hear it go on, and I'm like, turn this up, buddy. You
Yep.
know? Okay, that's interesting. Did you practice a lot? Did you get lessons? Or were you just chilling by yourself, figuring it out?
I tried lessons, but I think it was too fast paced for me, and they were teaching me
Got
stuff I didn't really want to learn, and I was too shy to say, no, I don't want to learn this. I want to learn this. So I just went my own way, and I pretty much learn by ear now, or just by YouTube videos. So it's all out there now, isn't it? Really? So
Okay, where do you get your overall general disposition in terms of like your attitude? Now we know that everything's not all sunshines and
no,
rainbows.
it's not. No,
But in general, like, as I've seen you multiple times now, so you've overcome like all of this, and we probably only skimmed the top. How do you maintain that? People bullied you, you knew you were different, and yet,
I don't know. Like obviously, I've had bad times. Like when you say about the music, like obviously I wanted to play guitar, but later on when I hit my teens, it was a coping mechanism for me. I couldn't talk to my mum just because of the age difference. She was a lot older. She was in her 50s when she adopted me.
Mhm.
So there was that age generation gap as well. So talking about mental health stuff was not easy.
Yeah.
So I turned to music basically.
And the waves stayed afloat. Had to leave on a ferry boat. Economic refugees on the run to Germany. At the back of Maggie's hand, times were tough in Jordan land. War tools and working gear and honked it all from Newcastle to here. So why I man? 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 Dutch marks here to learn. German tarts are wunderschön. German beer is chemical free. Germany's all right with me. Sometimes I miss my river time. But you're my pretty Fraulein. Tonight we'll drink the old town dry, keep Roxbury levels high. So why I man, 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 why I man. Sometimes I miss my river time, but you're my pretty Fraulein. Tonight we'll drink the old town dry, keep our spirit levels high. Sometimes I miss my river time, but you're my pretty Fraulein. Tonight we'll drink the old town dry, keep our spirit levels high.
So you win this talent contest, and that was that moment where you said, "Hey, I could do stuff and be like people are receiving me well."
Yeah, pretty much. It's almost like I got the social acceptance,
Oh,
which I
that's
felt I needed then, so
everyone needs that at
Yeah.
one point in their, because it's almost like here you are in your room practicing, and everyone, your friends, because you probably pay for your friends or the people who know you, right? And they know how
Yeah.
good you are, and then they're like, Demi, you have to do this, and you're scared, and you're like, no, but then inside you're like, Demi, you have to do this, because you knew you could wail a bit, right?
yeah.
Yeah. I love it. And then he went up there and said, watch this. And you let it rip. That is amazing. So that gave you a little bit of confidence.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, it did.
And so it should. End up graduating high school.
I did, yeah, I finished. I did all 6 years in high school. I did, well, I kind of took the way the education system works. I did, my two main subjects was music, obviously, and geography. And that kind of took me on to, because I wanted to do travel. I know we'll talk about that later, but
Yeah.
travel and tourism has always been what I've wanted to do. So
Well, you
it kind
take
of,
great photos. Like you need to be like feel like a travel blogger. Right? Okay. Did you go, what was next? Did you go to college, or did you were like, I gotta get a job, I want a job?
I went to college. So I went and did the travel and tourism course at college for a year.
What
And
was
then
college
from
like?
college was great. Met a load of new people, a new kind of social circle of people. And it was just the whole transition from school to college, it was completely different. I thought it was going to be way more fast paced, but it was actually the complete opposite. There was
More
it
relaxed,
was
right?
oh yeah, way more relaxed and a lot more manageable as well.
So you found it less busy and
Yes.
probably more manageable because the classes were the same time, the same day, right? There was
Yeah.
less variability.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting because sometimes, you would think it would be harder and
Yeah.
faster. When you were growing up with your mates, you mentioned not researching FASD, but knowing something was different. Did you ever have to explain that to anybody? Like, did you, or to your friends, or did you hide it, like mask it, I guess,
I masked it, yeah. Yeah, definitely. It's only in the last 2-3 years that I've actually started telling people,
Because even though
and
you
sharing on
knew,
social media.
okay, so even though you knew, did you not tell anybody because it wasn't really affecting your life? Or were you not telling people because you didn't really know and stigma associated?
I think stigma. For some reason I felt like it was a reason to be picked on.
Mm-hmm.
So I just kept quiet about it really, which I think now that I look back, it probably made it a lot harder to deal with,
Right.
hiding it, so
Okay, you're doing great, by the way.
thank you.
You really are. So you went to college and you
Yeah.
graduated. Oh, 1 year. It was a 1 year course?
Yeah, it was a
Yeah,
one year
okay.
course, yeah.
And then what'd you do next?
Well, I kind of went in between a couple of jobs. It's all kind of been hospitality really. So I was in a guest house doing like changing the rooms
Yeah.
round, doing the breakfasts. So I was doing that. And then I went to go and work in a little, I don't know what you kind of call it in over your way, but it's like a kiosk in a bus station that
Yeah.
sells coffee and hot dogs and all that kind
Got
of
it.
thing.
I understand. Yeah,
So,
we call it a concession stand.
okay,
Okay,
right.
yeah, giving concessions. Yep.
Right, okay. So
Cool.
yeah, I did that for it was going to be coming up to a year and then lockdown happened. And I had to leave that job and I kind of went back to working in the guest house just on and off. So this is about round the time my mum's health was deteriorating and I
Yeah.
moved into my own place. So this was all
So,
during lockdown.
wow. So your mom's health during COVID deteriorated.
Yeah,
Not the cause, the coincidence. And then
yeah.
you moved out.
Yeah, I moved into my own place. Basically, I've always known that my mum would go quite early on in my life just because of the age difference.
Yeah,
And also the genetics on her side. Her mum had Alzheimer's, so we kind of knew it was very likely.
sure.
And that's what did happen. So the way we went about it was she was getting a social worker to help her, and the decision was made to basically put me on the homeless list. Obviously, she was never gonna
Yeah,
evict me
no,
from the
you were
house.
playing the game. Understood. Yep.
Yeah, never gonna evict me from the house, but to kind of get the ball rolling,
Hmm.
to go down that path.
Understood.
So it must have been it was either just under a year, just over a year, I got offered a little house, a little bungalow, and I took it, and yeah,
And now you live there to this day?
I do, yeah, still here.
Okay, okay. Okay, so this is where I want to get into your daily, like just because as you know, independence is a hot topic and rightfully so. A lot of our audience, what's this going to look like when my kids get older? Because right now they are displaying the things that possibly you mentioned earlier with the tantrums and the meltdowns and the trouble in school. So it's hard to see
Yeah,
the other end. So this is important because there's a system to this. So you could obviously tell me, no, but can you share insights in how you manage your daily life? Because maybe I'll start here. What are the symptoms that you deal with daily? Is it memory? What do you
it's kind of there's almost like two columns to this because during lockdown, when I didn't have a job, and for me, job is routine.
Mhm.
When I didn't have a job, the problems were impulsivities for me,
Mhm.
and money management as well.
Mhm.
That was a big one. I needed friends and family to kind of bail me out a couple of times. I'll hold
Mhm.
my hand up to that, and because I was thrown into the deep end. All of a sudden, I'm living with my mum, and she's paying the bills, and the next minute, bang, I've got all this to deal with myself.
So rightfully so, and just so you know, money is like cardinal deficit. Numbers, all the stuff that you're
Yeah.
saying, I'm nodding because it is tough for individuals on the spectrum. I had my mentor say, if you can help an individual on the spectrum manage their time and money, 75% of their problems would go away.
Mm.
And so you recognize, okay, because you weren't spending as much when you were working because it's routine
Yes, I
and you
was
had
out of the
something to
house.
do and you
Yeah.
were busy.
Yeah.
But when there was no routine, the impulses took over. You spent the money you didn't have. Yeah,
Yeah.
got it without a pause button. And
Yep,
so
exactly.
but how big of it was of you yourself, sorry, my words, to reach out? That is big because
Mm.
that's hard for anyone to ask for help.
Yeah. Yeah. I've had a couple of close friends, kind of that helped me with this transition between living at home and moving out. and just literally having to sit down with me, going through budgets, and I don't mean sitting down with me once. I mean every month,
Yeah.
every month I'd panic, you know.
Sure, because you know the stakes, right? Like,
Yeah.
you understand. I'd be homeless.
Mm.
So now, do you still do it every month, or like after several months of teaching, what does that look like now for money management?
Yeah, it's a lot better. Like I've got a saved spreadsheet on my computer now, that I just edit every month. I just put in my wage for that month and everything that's coming out. Thankfully, it comes out automatically. We call it direct debits. I
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
know
Hmm.
if it's the same over there. So most of that's kind of, I don't have to remember to pay it. It's paid anyway, so
Yeah, no,
that
that's
takes
true.
the pressure off. Um,
And when someone suggested that you were all for just having it automatically come out,
oh
you
yeah,
didn't feel like you lost any autonomy, the ability to make choice. You were just
no,
glad I didn't have to think about it.
yeah, I think the less the
Yeah,
less
yeah,
I
yeah.
have to
Think
deal
about
with, the better.
yeah. Wow, Demi. It's true. So someone went over with you a lot.
Yeah.
And, even though, did you were you ever feeling like I'm a grown up, I should be doing this? Or by now in the journey, you understood that there was some areas that was just tough and, other
Yeah,
areas you were good.
I think I just accepted that I'm gonna need help, and I still
Yeah.
need help. Still
Yeah,
need,
yeah, uh-huh. And always will in different
yeah,
areas. Yeah. And
yeah.
you know what? As we get older, we become more dependent on others. Like, so
Hmm.
I believe independence is like a fallacy because
Yeah.
nobody is really truly independent. Like, for example, even me, there's no way I could do this podcast and run the online programs and even coming to the UK, I had lots of help, because then you get frustrated and overwhelmed and it's not good, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so bills are taken care of. What about other stuff like cooking?
That's with my current job is shift work, which is not ideal, but I'm finding as many strategies as possible to deal with it.
Hmm.
But it does make meal preparation quite difficult, because
Hmm.
ideally I should be doing it the night before, but that night before when I've done a shift at work, I'm tired.
Yeah.
My head's like, yeah, my head's
The last
fried.
thing you want to do, right?
Yeah, I just want to chill. So I've kind of learned to just have plenty tinned stuff in the pantry and everything, and I can just grab something and go, really.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay,
which
no, this
is,
is great.
yeah, it is annoying though because I love my cooking. I do like food and I love cooking, and when I do have the time, I'll cook.
Mhm.
So it's kind of like it's frustrating that I can't do it when I'm working, but
Yeah, no, it's true. You're
you've got to
gassed
make
up for.
sacrifices.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, absolutely. No, you're 100%. Now, you did mention your mom passing a few years ago.
Mm.
What coping mechanisms or support systems did you find most helpful during that period of loss and transition?
Definitely close friends, relatives, definitely helped me through that. I think it did help that I think, like I said earlier, a large portion of my life I knew it was going to happen at some point. It wasn't a shock,
Hmm.
so I was kind of, obviously you're never prepared to lose someone, especially your mother or father.
Hmm.
But it did make it just a little bit easier. And yeah, she taught me, she unfortunately with just her condition as well, she couldn't teach me everything. But I don't think I'd be where I am now if it wasn't for her. So
Oh, and look at you now, standing on your own 2 feet with lots of people on your street helping you out, which is so good. So, what and other advice would you have for young people who are striving to be like you, like on their own, living interdependently, to be successful like that, even when dealing with certain brain differences?
I think the biggest one is I know it's difficult because there's almost like a kind of, I'm trying to think of the word, but you
Yeah,
accept the help,
uh-huh.
basically. You almost feel like you're better than that. You can do it yourself.
Yeah,
And
pride.
yeah, pride, that's it. Yeah. That was the word
And
I was looking for.
so, but getting over that, because asking for help doesn't mean you're less.
No,
And nobody's sitting there saying, "Oh, look at you, dummy. You need help with it." That's not at all. People are pretty stoked that you're asking for help and are more than willing to help you so you could go about your business.
yeah.
What do you do for self-regulation besides music? If you find you're having a bad day and you're a little pissy.
Probably nature is my biggest. I love getting out for walks, love it. And it wasn't never, it didn't used to be like that. Never used to be like that. It was a friend of mine that actually said that I was having a bad day, and they were like, get out of your bed, go for a walk, get fresh air on you. And I was like, no, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. And then I did it, and I honestly won't look back because there's
Oh.
something about just the fresh air, and it honestly clears your head. It clears my head anyway.
And so regulates you, relaxes you, and then
Yeah,
you're able
definitely.
to. Dude, that's awesome. That because it's true. You need to go and chill. Now, let's talk about music. Let's talk about other passions. Trains. If you
Yep.
look on Demi's social media, there's lots of trains. So we had the intro into music. Give us the intro into trains here. When did this become a part of your fabric?
To be honest, it's trains is kind of the latest topic, but I've been into transport pretty much most of my life.
No way.
Because me and my mum would travel a lot during school holidays. We'd be on cruises, we'd be going, my mum had family in Australia, so we'd be going to Australia and see them. So planes, trains, buses, just anything, it's in my blood pretty much is transport. So obviously when I got into trains, for me it was even planes as well. Like I'll go over to the airport and I'll take photos. It kind of links with my passion for
Mhm.
photography as well, And obviously that opened up the avenue for the job that I have now, working on the railway.
What is it about trains? Like I know it's the transport, but is it the sound, the look, the memories?
Definitely, well, the trains I'm into, I wasn't born when they were, around really. For me it's the smells, the sounds, definitely. And for me, it's the actual infrastructure of the railway. Like when I said I go on walks, I like to look at old Ordnance Survey maps and try and find all the old railways that used to be in this area and do all the walks. So it's quite the historic side of it as well that I like.
Yeah, that's one thing you have over us. My first trip to Europe, I don't know, several years ago, I came back and I was just like, North America is so young in terms
Mm,
of like overall. You have hundreds of years, of great history. Like it's pretty close too in terms of geography. So that's awesome. You look at maps to find old railways and then you go
yeah,
look to find them.
yeah, yeah. And it's basically when you know how to read a map, you find all the old viaducts and all the old bridges, and then you pretty much join the dots and you can find where it used to lie. So,
That's cool, dude. That I think that's unbelievable. Now, you work at the rail yard now. What do you do for the railway? What are you doing?
so I'm pretty much front line. So we've got ticket gates, so you've got to put your ticket through and the gate opens and you can get on the train.
Hmm.
So I'm pretty much standing there making sure everyone has a ticket, and if they
Hmm.
don't, I need to tell them to buy a ticket.
Yeah. Or people ask for
It's
directions.
yes, that as well.
Because I remember asking because I was I was taking a train from Glasgow or from Edinburgh to Glasgow, one of them.
Mhm.
And you have to go out, get on a bus to get on the airport. So I was asking, and
Yeah.
exactly, I think I know exact blue shirt, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. The trains are nice there. Okay, so how do you deal with that with being on the spectrum? Because that seems fast.
It is, yeah, it is. And it's only recently, like I've been in the job, it'll be 3 years in August, I'll have been in the job. I did an apprenticeship first with them, and then obviously I was taken on full time. Only recently have I opened up to management about the condition. I've kind of,
Tell me everything. That's a big step, my
yeah,
guy. Tell me
Yeah, I
about
know.
it. Tell me about it. What happened?
It pretty much it did at one point it did get too much. Just too
So,
overwhelming. It's a very busy environment, you know. And at the time I was working on my own and all these people are coming at you and you can only process one thing at once,
yeah, boy.
you know.
Big time. I get it.
Yeah, so I just, you know, at the minute, they're trying to put some support things in place. So splitting my breaks up, so it's not just one break, I can split it, you know, so it's almost I can take a 10-minute breather,
What did
walk
they,
away,
how did they
come
react,
back.
Debbie, when you told them?
I think they were slightly shocked that I hadn't said anything earlier,
Yeah, because
but
you could never tell,
no,
you would never tell,
yeah.
you
And that's, I
know?
think that's what makes it hard with FASD is
Double-edged sword,
it
right?
is
Yeah.
invisible, or it can be invisible,
Yeah.
which makes it so much harder to talk about. So you tell them and they look at you strangely like, but you talk, you know, you
And
can talk
look.
fine to us and you know,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Why? So it kind of puts you on a bit of a downer as well. But you know, there's support's been put in place, so for
But
now
they
it's
didn't
on the
treat
up.
you differently
No,
once, no. Hmm.
no, not at all.
Good lads over there, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, that is awesome. Were you worried that might happen if you disclosed?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah.
What
I
would
don't
your
know why.
advice? That's well, because I guess you don't want people to treat you different and then think you're dumb and or you're
Yeah.
stupid or the R word when that's not the case,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so you are sharing a vulnerability and
Mm-hmm.
everybody has a tough time with that. And so when you are employed, you want to be competent and I could do my job and I want to be employed. So that takes big gonads, for
Yeah.
lack of a better term. So
Yeah.
good for you. And now they're going to split up your breaks and provide some more support. So
Yes.
yeah, you could keep going after it. Now, what are you doing with music?
It's not something I do professionally, it's a hobby.
Hmm.
So most weekends I am out gigging in pubs and bars and
Okay, a
doing bits and
hobby, but
pieces.
you are performing
I am, yeah. I am performing.
on your
Um
own or part of like in a band?
More of a band. I'd call myself a session musician, so I'll kind of play with everyone and
Yeah,
anyone really.
sure. Hey, Demi, we need a guitarist. Yep, sure.
Yeah.
Did you learn can you read music?
No.
No, yeah. Well, neither can Dave Grohl, right? So
Yeah, exactly.
it's not a prerequisite. I just wonder, so then is it just listening to the rhythm and the notes? Like,
Yeah, pretty much I can listen to a song and pick it up pretty quickly. It's all by ear.
yeah.
Uh, that I don't know how I do it. I just yeah.
Well, that part of your brain is awesome. That
Yeah.
part of my brain is vacant.
Uh,
There's nothing going on in the musical part for sure. That's what I want to do, right? So that's why I'll leave the music up to you guys.
yeah.
And okay, so what's the future look like, Demi? And I know it's a abstract question, but it sounds to me like you're just getting started. What are you thinking? Like, what do you want to do?
Yeah, that is a difficult one. That is a
Yeah,
difficult one. Because at the minute I'm quite happy
yeah,
where
cool.
I am.
Yeah,
Definitely I would like to stay in the travel industry because
cool.
I do love meeting new people and all walks of life and everything. It's every day is different. And I do like that. Even though I like routine, I do like, a little surprise here and there.
Get a little worked up, have a little adrenaline. Do you go to
Yeah.
concerts?
Well, funnily enough, I'm about to go to one in May to see,
Are you gonna go see
yeah,
Nickelback?
go see
Oh,
Nickelback in
they're
May
great,
in
man. We love
Glasgow.
them. Like they're uber popular over here. Is rock music would be your go-to?
Not really. It's
Mm.
more kind of folk blues, so I'm into Eric Clapton and Genesis and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I do have a rock side as well.
You're doing so good and you're navigating all of these things. And am I right in saying that getting support has been the biggest helper for you, or am I putting words in your mouth?
No, definitely. Yeah, definitely. Because it's weird, I didn't even know the phrase FASD. I only knew FAS. And
Hmm.
it's amazing the the resources that will come up under FAS and then FASD. There's like so many more when you
Mhm,
type in
mhm.
the full.
Yeah, verbiage. Tell me
Yeah.
about your journey into discovering that, because you said this was only a few years ago. What brought that? Like, you're like, I want to learn more about this because you've made it clearly into your 20s without. What was just
Yeah.
curious or what?
It was once I moved out, basically. So I felt it was around about the same time. So I'd moved out of my mum's house, and not long after moving in here, I reconnected with my birth dad on Facebook. I had paperwork from social work departments and everything, and I typed his name in Facebook, and he replied within like 20 minutes and said that he'd been waiting for this moment his entire life to get to get back in touch with me.
No
He'd
way.
been yeah, he'd seen me on Facebook, but he wasn't gonna add
Yeah,
me
he
as a
didn't
friend
want
or
to.
anything. He just wanted to let me do that if I ever did, and I did.
Whoa, dude. Okay. What was
It
that like meeting him then?
was mad. It was yeah. You know what? And so much of my personality, I understand. I like photography, and yeah, it's from
Okay.
him really. So
Okay. Wow. So then you met him?
I did, yeah, I did. We had a phone call first, and then I think it was, I think once lockdown restrictions had eased a bit, we met up. Yeah,
That must have been wild.
but yeah, it was. It was.
Is he cool?
He is, and he likes trains too.
And is he still in your life?
He is, yeah,
Gosh dang it, man.
yeah,
So it's almost like one parent goes, another one comes,
yeah.
and
Well,
he was go
the
ahead,
good
sorry.
thing was the good thing was he did get to meet my mum again. Obviously, they hadn't met since I was adopted, so that was like 20 years. So they
Hmm.
got to meet again, so that was good.
How far did he live away?
It's probably about an hour's, yeah, it's an hour's drive from me.
That's
But I
that's
can get a train through. It's
that's
easy
next
enough.
door in Canada. Yeah, yeah, yeah. We drive that long for coffee. Holy smokes.
Yeah,
That's wild, dude. That is, I'm so glad
yeah.
it worked out.
But yeah, it was when I moved out, I was like, right, I need to kind of
Hmm.
sort out all these issues because I knew I was gonna have them when I was living on my own. So that's when I started researching FAS and everything, and it was the FASD Hub Scotland that popped up, and I gave them a ring, and Judith answered, and that was it's kind of history from there.
And now you're like, dude, this lady's cool too.
Yep, there we
Yeah.
go.
And the community is cool though,
Yeah.
because we've been through it. Demi, this is super cool. And I'm so glad I did this. I'm so glad I did this. Now, I'll leave you with this two questions. First question is, you only have one album that you could bring with you.
Oh,
What are you doing? And
oh,
if you have a
that's
hard
that's a
time with
difficult
the
one.
album, we could say band. That's okay too.
Right, I'm gonna go Genesis, Selling England by the pound.
Genesis sell England by the pound. My second question is, what would you say to the kids, because individuals on the spectrum listen to this, young
Mm,
adults who are struggling, man, and want to have better and be better? What do you say to them?
don't give up because so many times I've thought, what's the point? I've been there, I've been in the trenches when it comes to mental health, and just don't give up. Speak to people, and one person may well have an avenue to get the help you need. Yeah, basically.
Yeah,
Don't give up and talk to other people about it. Don't keep it to yourself.
not basically. That's everything. That was excellent. Demi, yeah, you rule, dude. Hey, would you come back and do this again?
Definitely, yeah.
Isn't it? See, it's not
Yep.
as scary as you thought, right?
No.
No, it's not. It's literally we're talking. I know that my families are loving listening to this because you are a great example. It still takes lots of work and support, but you are living your best life and you're happy and you're healthy and you're content. Like, see, we as a society, I feel like I was like, okay, so what's next? And you just were like, nothing. Like this is good.
Yeah.
Yeah, until you want something next. Status quo is okay, yo, right? Because that means your brain is chill and you can enjoy and you
Yeah, I
just
think
live.
for me anyway, growing up, well, for school, it was always this image of, okay, you finish school, you go to college or you go to uni, then you get a job, then you have a family, I'm like, no. None of that.
Mm-mm, mm-mm. No, you have and now to know that you have your own direction
Yeah,
and you can do whatever you want
yeah,
because that's how cool you are. Demi, thanks so much for doing this, dude. I just really appreciate it.
thank you.